When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers! Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and if number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hey kids, it's Tuesday afternoon and I'm looking outside and I'm thinking it's like 30 degrees and I just can't wait to go get my kids. Yay! So excited. I'm even more excited to have today's show guest on because I had to reschedule him once. So, before we get to Tony Denison, I just have to make some seriously quick announcements because I haven't been on radio since last week. A couple quick notes. Obviously, of course, today is Tony's interview very shortly. Tomorrow I'm on air at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time with Todd, which is, again, another rescheduled interview with SimFit, which is a gym that's located in Denver, Colorado, who is about to launch their own television station. Hugely excited about that one. Then this Friday we have Michael, who is the writer and producer of the independent film that was shown at my film festival, Art is Alive, which is called Talk of the Dead. Super excited to have him on the show. That's 1 o'clock Central Standard Time on Friday. Just a reminder to everybody, after this Friday, I'm off, at least from radio, that is, up until January 9th, so you guys won't be hearing me on the radio. Quick reminder about my film festival. Submissions are officially open, Art is Alive, filmfestival.yolasite.com. Anybody that submits this week, I've knocked down the submission fee to $15 instead of $25. Why? Because I'm medicated. Just kidding, no. Filmmakers are broke. Indie filmmakers are even more broke, so go and submit while you can. New dates put up August 16th to the 19th. Sometime during the end of this program, you're going to find out how you can be in my movie, which is starting to shoot next month, or you can come and attend and meet the celebrities in person at Art is Alive Film Festival, again, August 16th through the 19th in New York City. And I don't want to forget to remind everybody, check my social media page for how to buy the calendar, how to buy the comic book, how to get involved with the film festival. Without further ado, I'm going to put Tony on the line because he's been waiting far too long for me, and he's a heck of a lot more important than I am.
Hello?
Hello? Is this Tony Denison?
Hey, Al. Yes, it is.
Well, you're a big deal. I've heard a lot about you, a huge amount about you. Oh, God, yeah. I just spoke to, actually, one of your cast members, somebody that was on Major Crimes this season, because I was trying to get some info about you, and he spoke very highly of you.
Who was that? Who did you speak with?
Do you know, well, obviously you do know him, James Morrison. He was in, I believe, your first episode this season. He was the really mad, you know who I'm talking about. And I happened to collaborate with him on a project. And so I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to be interviewing your castmate, Tony Denison. And he spoke volumes about you and how wonderful you are. So I'm super excited.
Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice of him. He was a very nice guy. He played a really horrible character. But he was a nice man.
Yes, as a matter of fact, he did. And I remember him from the days of 24. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And I'm so excited that he's giving me music for my film. So I'm like, oh, my God, this is super exciting. So, so he's wonderful. And so, well, welcome to the show. I have a lot of questions. I never watched the show before until I found out you were coming on, and I have to ask my very first question. You're very serious. In fact, a lot of your work in the past has been very dramatic. So I'm going to venture to guess that you're either very serious in person or you're completely the direct opposite in person. I was like, you kind of scare me when I look at you, and I'm like, I wonder what this guy's like. So what's the real Tony Denison like?
Well, if the real Tony Denison had his way, the next show that I would do a sitcom again. I did a sitcom once before. Unfortunately, it only lasted 9 episodes. It was with Amy Sherman, and it was called Come Fly With Me. But, you know, and I had the time of my life doing that. But, you know, as an actor, and I'm happy to do, you know, whatever roles that I do that when I really like the material. But it would be nice if the next project I did is a comedy, because I remember when I got Crime Story, I don't know if you know that show, where I played a really tough killer mob guy, and my friends in New York, when I got the job, they were saying, but you're like a romantic comedy kind of guy. So, you know, and then Time Magazine called me the best villain of the decade. So go figure.
God. Oh my God.
So
okay,
who am I
really
though?
sure
who am I really like? I'm like, you know, people say I have a great sense of humor, and I like to kid around. And, you know, I'm quick with a retort to somebody, but never anything nasty.
I gotcha. Yes, and he said the same thing, James, and I was talking to him because I'm like, give me some headway on this. Because when I watch you on television, like when I'm watching this series, by the way, your series is very interesting and out of the ordinary, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But when I was watching it, I'm like, yeah, you're very intense. Even when you're doing your scenes with Mary, it's like, okay, he's in love with this woman, he's getting married to her, and da-da-da-da-da, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, he's a little pushy with this woman. I'm like, I don't know if I could be married to this guy on character. I'm like, you're a little tough on film. Or on screen, I should say. But it works well, though. I'm not going to lie. So usually when I do my interviews, I jump around a little bit. So we're not going to just talk about major crimes because obviously you were an actor well before this. And what I didn't know until I researched you is you used to be a newspaper editor. And that is way cool because I'm a professional writer. So I'm like, how did you go from there to here, meaning to acting?
Oh, there was a lot of jobs that I did. I did that job, and then I was out of work for a while after the paper merged with another paper. And that editor of that paper, the editor-in-chief of that paper, he had seniority over me. So there was no space for two editors. And they didn't really need another reporter. So I was let go. And it was during that letting go that I found my way into taking an acting class at the college where I had graduated from. And then from there, with enthusiasm from the teacher, who said, you know, you really got something. And I was like, yeah, okay, you know, fine, whatever, thanks. And then one day I met these women. I was on a lunch break because I was selling life insurance at that point. And I met these women, one of which is Jan Denison. And they started, you know, teasing me and kidding around. And then I told them that I was an actor, you know, and that I sell life insurance, but I'm an actor. I just learned, you know, took a class. So they cast me, or they had me come and audition, but then they really liked me because, number one, I was available during the day because most of insurance sales stuff is at night. So that they were doing a lot of shows in the high schools and the colleges and the junior highs in the upstate, you know, the tri-state area. They said that's one of the reasons why they cast me, besides the fact they thought I had some raw talent. So, and it was in the insistence of Jan Denison that I take a shot and go to New York, and I did.
Oh, look at that. That's so awesome. Yeah, because I saw that. You were actually born and raised in New York, Harlem, as a matter of fact, and I have a question relative to that. I'm in Wisconsin. I'm moving to New York in 6 years. I've never been to Harlem, and people keep saying you should go visit it there. And then the other half of the people are like, don't go there unless you want to die. So I don't know when you've been back there last, but am I going to die in Harlem?
No, not anymore. Harlem is, I mean, it even surprises me. I was there about 2 years ago, and I went up to the street where I was, you know, lived, and, you know, and I'm saying like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have gone, me personally wouldn't have gone up to the street where I lived unless I was armed and had, you know, an armed accomplice. Right. Because, you know, it was dicey up there. But when I walked up there, I was shocked. I was I was staying at a place on 96th Street. So one morning I had some time, so I took a walk, and I walked up to 107th, and I thought, my God. I mean, the building I lived in was gone, but the block up was there were still parts of the building that were left. And, but you know, it was really weird. But Harlem is a great place to visit. You love Harlem. Ooh, I mean, look, there's some dicey neighborhoods in any city. And, you know, it depends on where you go in New York. If you're down along the lower, like down along the West End near the river, or the East Side near the river, you know, I'm sure some of those streets at night there's knuckleheads hanging out, but very few. New York has really gone through a metamorphosis, let me tell you.
Oh, God, yeah, definitely. I agree with you. And it's my favorite place in the whole wide world, but I'm like, I need to get to all the boroughs, and I haven't been to Harlem yet. I just haven't had time to get there. So that's my next trip in January. I'm going to Harlem based on your recommendation. So if I die, it was nice knowing you. But I'm hoping not.
Okay.
I don't want to forget to ask you, do you prefer because some people call you Anthony John and then some people call you Tony. So I was curious about that. Do you have a preference on what people call you?
No, Tony's fine. Anthony works too, but Tony's fine.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, great. Now, you had once said, this was some advice that you gave to actors, and I'm talking about this because a lot of people that listen to my show are actually in the business or trying to get into the business. You made the statement saying, go to a store that sells patience, and I love that. I was like, this is too funny. So if you wouldn't mind talking a bit about your acting experience, when you first started out versus being now a veteran actor, somebody, if they're starting out right now, they want to get into the business now, today, in almost 2018, what advice would you give them? I mean, I think that's great, talking about the patience factor, but what else would you tell them about the industry that you know now that you didn't know before?
Well, I tell them you have to have a passion for wanting to do this. Passion's got to be the motivating factor, not the amount of money you can make or the amount of fame you might have. It's got to be passion to explore emotionally different characters. And that would be key. Number one would be having the passion, because there's going to be times when things aren't going to go your way, and if you don't have that passion, you may drop out of the business. But if you have the passion, you'll endure. You may take some part-time job you don't like to pay some bills while you're waiting for the next role to do. But if you have passion, you will, it's like Michael Mann once said to me, do what you love and the money will follow. So that's what I would say to any other actor: do what you love. And and I tell people to not get into that thing like when they get an audition that they're in competition against anybody else. They're not. There's nobody like you. There's nobody out there that's exactly me. There are people that I might be similar to. We might share some characteristics, but me, I'm as unique as my fingerprint, and so is everybody else. And it's a matter of how much use that passion to prepare for the audition, and then if you don't get the role, it's not a matter that you were bad. As long as you gave your all, it's just a question of fitting into what the writers and the directors see for that character. It has nothing to do with your talent. I mean, it does to some degree if you're not really prepared for the audition and you sort of wing it. But when you go in there prepared and you're ready to go, at the end of the day that you were being of service to the material by giving it your all. After that, who knows? When you get up at bat, you just hit the ball as hard as you can. If it makes it over the fence, great. If it doesn't, you hit the ball as hard as you can. That's all anybody can ask for. And the other thing I would give advice to actors, up and coming actors, is stay away from the naysayers. Stay away from the people who say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, they're not going to do that. Or, they want this person. They want a guy from England. You're never going to get it. Or they want a guy from Australia. Or they want a guy from the South. Or they want a guy from Canada. I mean, whatever. Just stay away from that. Just stay away from that naysayers, because they just bring you down. Because again, this is it's very sensitive. That trying to be passionate and positive and patient. Right. And when you hang around people that have decided that there's something horribly wrong with the business, it can affect you sometimes. So that's what I say. Just stay away from the naysayers. People tell you all kinds of negative things. You go, okay, hey, my God, look at the time. I got to get going. Anyway, nice talking. Goodbye. And you just leave. And that's what I would suggest to people. Is and it's like, there's lots of things I could suggest, but those are the big ticket items.
I appreciate that. Well, and the other question was, I was talking to a fellow filmmaker and an actor, and I said, well, I'm going to ask him this question, because obviously you've been in the business long enough, but I don't think people understand. Sometimes, does that make it easier, do you think, for you to be cast nowadays, or do you still find yourself having to prove yourself time and again? You know what I mean? Even though you've been around.
You get to a certain point in this business where, you would think, if you're a quote-unquote A-list actor on the movie A-list screen, that, that's it, you just get offered roles. And that's probably true a lot of the times. But then there's some times when, no, they want you to come in and read because they're looking for a specific type of person. And I always say that when you go in and read for a role and get it, then they really wanted you. It's not something where you get a role offered to you and you wonder how many people did they offer it to before me and how many of them all said no. That's a part of it. But, I remember there was a guy in New York, Robert Zuckerman. He's a doctor of theater, believe it or not, at Columbia University. And he once said to me, he's an old friend. I haven't seen him in years, but he had said to me, look, Tony, I don't know much about the film business or the movie business. When I got Crime Story and I was moving out to go do that show, he said, but the one thing I can pick up from all the people I've worked with and all the people who have guest lectured in my classes and all that stuff, he says, the only thing you can be sure about is that there's nothing to be sure about. And if you remember that, you will get through this business with a modicum amount of disappointments. Because you'll say, oh, you know what? That's just, I was expecting something, and my expectations got the better of me. I should have, lowered my expectations and just be reasonable about what it is that I want. So, realizing this, I'm telling you, when I said before about passion, passion, patience, and being positive, that you got to remember. I got to remember that, because I don't want to get to be one of these guys who just say, oh yeah, sure, big deal. Oh, I can do that. No, I don't want that. I want every time I do a character, I don't care if it's a TV character or a movie character, I want him to be as different as I can make him, under the confine, with the caveat that it's really me trying to explore another part of me. So, and I try to give it my all each time. I don't take it. You can't take anything for granted. You start taking things for granted, you're going to start going down the slippery slope, as they say.
I gotcha. Sure. Now, this is an interesting question, and most folks may or may not know this. I'm sure your fans do, but I know back a while ago you had done a film called Trattoria, which I thought was so cool because you did the film festival circuit, which is what I'm involved in. So how did all that come about? Because I haven't got to see it yet, as a matter of fact, but I'm curious about that because I understand that you cook, and obviously this is a creation relative to that. So tell your audience about Trattoria, if you would.
Well, not as good. I didn't cook as good as the technical advisor, who was the uncle to the director. But and I learned a lot more. Stuff I didn't even know, about cooking and how to hold a knife. I used to hold it a different way because I worked in a deli, and I cut. He showed me the way to cut stuff much more exact, and and also combining and stuff and preparation. But that's like one of those parts. It was it was an independent film, not a big budget. I was the star of a television series. They were happy to have me come in, but I still had to go in and read. I got the part because I read for the part. It wasn't like they offered me the part.
Wow.
So I liked the script, and my manager or my agent or both of them had said, hey, look, if you really want this, the only way you're going to get it is you got to go in and read for it. They're not offering it. So I said, okay. I really liked the character. Again, it was passion. I liked the character, and I stayed positive. And and I just said, okay, look, as far as the patience part of it is concerned, I was like, all right, let me just prepare, do what I got to do, take your time, relax. Then I went in and I did that, and very quickly after the audition, they gave me a call and said, you're the guy. So you're Sal. His character's name was Sal. And I said, great. And I had to go up to San Francisco to shoot the movie, which was wonderful. I'd only been to San Francisco once before. And I had a wonderful time. I wish it was a movie that took 3 months to shoot. But I loved the crew. I loved the director, the producer, and I loved hanging out in San Francisco.
Gotcha. Now, if somebody
a little
listening
cold, but I loved hanging out there.
I was just going to say, is it on now? It is available, right? People can rent it either on Amazon, I presume, or did it get distribution? I just want to be clear on that. The answer is I don't know.
Okay. I really don't know.
I'll find it.
I think it's available on one of those streaming services.
Okay, I'll look it up.
It did have a run somewhere, but it didn't. It wasn't turning. It wasn't turning the world on fire.
Oh, it's
a shame because it was a lot of fun. It was a good movie.
Well, exactly. Right. Now, as I understand it, you're Sicilian, which means you're Italian. So when you made that comment before, I had to chuckle to myself because I'm like, did he just say he doesn't cook as well as other people? Because I'm under the presumption that all my Italian friends tell me that they eat well, they cook very well, and they get fat very easily. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. I don't. What I meant to say before was it's like there were things about cooking that I didn't know. I would just sort of cook the way I taught myself, or the way my mother would do it, or my dad. And then when you're being trained and instructed and guided by a professional chef, it's like a whole nother. I mean, it's like a whole nother world. I mean, it's
Sure.
the way you can slice and dice stuff with a really good knife, and and again, it's like people say, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just improper clothing. Well, there's no such thing as having a difficult time in the kitchen unless if you have you have the proper materials. And I went out and got this really great knife. I got 3 knives, but the one knife that I use a lot, I mean, it cuts really great, and when I hold the knife and do the thing the way I'm supposed to, it's a real joy, and the accident factor goes like way, way, way down if you're doing it that way.
Oh, I bet. My gosh. Got it. Okay, so that clears up the Italian part. And then I saw some pictures of you, and this was so cute because I'm already intimidated because you're Tony Denison. So I'm like, okay, so I've got this great guy coming on the show. And then I see you with this cute little picture of you and this cat. And I'm like, oh, my God, this must be his cat. I'm like, how cool is that? It's a TV star. He's got this cute little cat. I'm like, he's got to have a soft spot, right? So you have pets, or a pet, I should say.
I have 2 cats now.
Okay. Oh, you do have 2. Okay, I didn't see the other one, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I have 1 cat myself, and I'm like, I wonder.
I had 3 cats when you saw that picture.
Oh, really?
He was
what
the
happened?
only one.
Oh,
yeah, that was yeah. He passed away. That was Angel Face.
I'm sorry. Aw.
Yeah, that's okay.
Did you just say Angel Face?
Yeah, that was his name.
That's what my significant other calls me, Angel Face. How ironic is that? I shall have to mention that to him.
It's a great
today.
name.
He'll find that very amusing.
Great name.
Now, I want to talk about something very important. I think one of the biggest accomplishments that you've ever done is you've been in recovery for 24 years, which is highly commendable. I've believed that myself and many others. But what I want to talk about relative to that is, obviously, a whole caliber of friends of mine that listen to this show are either struggling with addiction or have had addiction issues, etc. So if there's somebody out there that might be struggling or listening today, what advice would you give them? How did you get yourself to a point where you knew you needed help, and how did you get yourself out of harm's way?
Don't let pride get in the way of asking for help, okay? Because they say, or don't lose your ass trying to save your face. And that's like a really important thing to do. And you've got to accept the fact that you're unable to do it by yourself. I mean, I don't care what new age or, trendy therapists there are out there who want to believe that you come and sit with me and then after a period of time, you'll be all better. Not true. If you're a real alcoholic, and they use that expression a lot around the rooms, a real alcoholic. If you're a real alcoholic, you need help. You need somebody or somebodies, in the fellowship to help you get started on the program. And maybe your involvement with the fellowship will diminish somewhat. Maybe you only go to 1 or 2 meetings a week instead of going to like 5 meetings a week or 6 meetings a week. But whatever it is, whatever it takes, because it's an insidious malady or disease, if you will, but it's an insidious situation that it's a physiological, it's like cigarette smoking. It's a physiological addiction. There's not only the fact of what alcohol does for you when you drink it, it's also the ambiance thing of sitting around with a glass of wine in your hand at a party, smoking a cigarette, and and clinking glasses and all that. That's all nice and fine, romanticized, but for some people, it just doesn't work. I didn't know how to say when. I was incapable of saying when. I tried a lot of times, but my saying when may have lasted like three sittings. And then next time I said, I can do 2 drinks now. And then it was, I can do 3. And then, then I'd always wind up getting drunk. And, and it's not good. It's just not good.
Oh, of course. No, I understand. I do, actually.
So,
I quit smoking a half ago. It was a pain.
Yeah, so people just have to realize that there's no shame. There's no shame in walking to a meeting or calling central office on the telephone. The numbers are there. Just call up information. Can I have the telephone number for the AA central office, near wherever you live? Somebody's always there. They'll answer the phone. and they'll talk to you a little bit, and they'll recommend you go to a meeting. They'll tell you where the nearest meeting is to you, where you live, and when it starts. And if you're unable to, you don't have a car or whatever, they'll call up. There's people who will come to your house, and they'll just say, "Come on, man, I'll give you a ride to the meeting." And so they make it simple. The hard part is you recognizing that you thinking that it's not simple. That's the hard part of it. It's trying to complicate it. It's not complicated. It's very, very, very simple. But simple doesn't mean easy, and simple doesn't mean hard. It just means simple.
Got it. Sure. No, I get you. I do. Thank you for that, actually. That's just so highly commendable. I think of all the things you've done. That's just so impressive to me. My father's an alcoholic, so I know that gamut really well, and it's going to be part of my next film. So I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
Couple personal side notes about this gentleman I'm speaking to. He's met some of my favorite people, one of which is a mutual friend. I just found out today, actually, we have a whole lot of mutual friends. I don't know, 25 people I know. And you met Richard Graff, who I interviewed on my show from Making of the Mob on
he's a great
channel.
guy, Richard.
He's a sweetheart. Oh, I love him. He was a great interview. Absolutely wonderful. He told me that. Seriously?
Yeah,
really?
There was some project that he was going to be shooting about the CIA or the FBI and the mob in I think in Cleveland or something. And and I mean, I guess they're having some troubles raising all the cash that they need, or maybe they got all the cash that they need, but they're just trying to put together the right cast. And but I signed an agreement, a letter of intent saying, hey, cool. All things being equal, I'm happy to do it.
That's awesome. And of course you've met. Oh my God. Well, I don't know these people. That's why I'm in awe of you. First of all, you've met the incomparable Rita Moreno. I saw you with her, and I'm like, oh my God. She's like a god.
Yeah.
Love her. Love her. She's like legend. Awesome. And you met Sarah Paulson.
Cool.
I met American Horror Story girl, Sarah Paulson. You met Sarah Paulson from American Horror Story.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, my God.
I've known Sarah for a long time. We worked on one of the shows that James Duff did before The Closer and Major Crimes. He did this show called The DA. And I was on that show.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the show only lasted 4 episodes. But Sarah was,
I didn't know that.
She was a DA on the show, and so that's when we first met. And we stayed friendly. I mean, we don't call each other on the phone and say, "Hey, what's going on?" But every time I see Sarah, no matter where it is, she's always very, very polite and very, how you doing kind of thing. And I kidded with her one day when we both were presenting awards. And I forget what the award function was, but we went there to present awards, and we were back in the dressing room. And we were talking, and so I said to her, so what are you doing? You working? And she looked at me like I was crazy because she was doing like 11 projects at the same time, and I knew that. And she goes, well, I'm doing. I said, I'm saying, I know. But it was so funny because usually actors do that to one another. They go, so what are you doing? You working on anything? And so I said that to her. I said, so what are you doing? Are you working? And she looked at me like. She didn't know if I was serious or not, so she started answering me as if I was. And I just laughed. God, look at that.
That is too funny. That is so cool. And I also found out, so like I said, obviously, we're mutual friends with, my friend Sal Randino, who, of course, has been on the Netflix series, more than one, I think. Right. Kathy Narducci, obviously, you know her. Chris Campbell had a film in my film festival this last year. And you know her, too. Yes, just this last year. And Scott Silverman. Scott Silverman. And I think I know how you know him. He was on my show last year. He's a doll. Absolutely love him. He picked me up from the airport in California. Super nice guy. Absolutely adore him. So, we know a lot of the same people. So I'm kind of shocked that I've never actually come around to your circle before because I'm like, oh, my God, I know everybody he knows. Well, 25 people you know. Anyway.
Well,
and they all say great things.
That's what happened with me and Joey Pantaleone. One time, everybody would say to me, I can't believe you and Joey don't know each other. I said, well, I know who he is,
right?
I said, but I've not ever had the chance to meet him. The opportunity didn't present itself. And people would tell him the same thing. How can you not know Tony? And you guys would hit it off great. So one time we were at this party for the Academy Awards that this guy Norby Walters throws every year. And it was like in the movies. I'm walking down this staircase, the sort of semicircular staircase that takes me down to where the party is. And he's walking up the staircase, and we both stopped. And we look at each other and we go, I can't believe, we've almost said it at the same time, finally.
Right.
And we became very close. I mean, when he's in town, we hang out a little bit. He's a very funny man and a very talented man, certainly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's
big
nice
question
to meet him.
here. Yeah, no
What?
kidding. So I figured, well, eventually I'm like, if this man, meaning you, if I interview you today and you're impressed with this, hopefully you'll want to know me too, because I have some surprises for you when I get done. You'll be excited, I hope.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll never
I
talk
love
to me again.
surprises.
You scare me. You scare me. I'm not going to lie. I was hoping halfway through, I'm like, I'm not going to be afraid of him, but I'm totally still afraid. I'm working on it, though. So one of the things we want to talk about.
Let me just tell you one cute little story before we go on. About scaring you. When I was doing Crime Story, Dennis Farina, God rest his soul, he was a real cop. And John Santucci, also, God rest his soul, too, he was a real thief. So people thought, because of the way Michael Mann cast him, that I was an ex-mob guy and that I decided to get into acting. So people were always, like, very cautious around me and how they behaved because they thought I was, some ex-mob killer. It was really funny. Anyway.
Oh, great. Now I'm really not afraid of you or anything. Thanks a lot. That was great. Okay, let's continue on then. Before we start talking about some of the roles you've done, it would almost appear as though, just by your resume, you favor television to film. I'm sure that you do either or, and I've seen you done either or. But are you just more comfortable in television, or you've just kind of been chiseled into that market more so? You know what I mean?
I've wound up into that market more so than films. I'd love to be able to do, have a wider berth in feature films. I've just not been fortunate enough to have that happen. I've done a lot of independent feature films, but I've not did one studio film and or two, but I didn't have a lot to do in them, and that was it. Okay. I mean, I'd love to be in some movie. Even if I was the seventh lead with a movie with Jack Nicholson or Meryl Streep or somebody like that, I would go nuts if that could happen. But it's not happened for me. So, it's just the way it goes.
I understand.
Maybe it'll happen now. You never know.
Well, we'll see. We'll find out. Okay, first off, I want to talk about this because I have two radio shows. The other radio show, I used to interview the cast of Sons of Anarchy. And how ironic that you've been on Sons of Anarchy. Wow.
Yeah, that was fun.
How cool was that? Fun. How did you end up hooked up with those guys? That's got to be a blast.
Well, oh my God, I forgot his name. Just Peter Weller, who directed the episode.
Oh, Peter Weller.
What?
Okay, RoboCop guy.
Yeah.
Peter RoboCop guy, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I ran into him at we had mutual friends, and he says to me, he goes, "My God, Tony," he goes, I was just talking to Kurt Suter. He said, and we realized, because Peter's been involved with the show for a long time and directed a lot of episodes. Right. He goes, we realized, we've not ever had Tony Denison on this show. This is insane. So I get a phone call from Kurt Suter, and he says to me, you know what? I don't know how it's happened, but reason you slipped through the cracks. So I got to get you on this show, before we wrap up our season, and that's the end. And I said, well, okay, because apparently he was a big fan of mine from Crime Story. I mean, he was a crazy fan for Crime Story, period. But he just really loved me on the show. So I said, well, let's try to work it out. And I was doing the Major Crimes at the time. And he said, look, we'll shoot around you. We'll make it so that whatever day you think you have off this week, that's the day we'll schedule you to shoot. And we'll change our schedule. And that's very, very, very complimentary to do that. That's, that was above and beyond. And so it worked out. So I went in. I played this character. I had a ball. It was nice meeting all the guys, and that was it. And then that was the end of it. I really wish it was some reoccurring character, and I had more to do because I really loved the vibe on that show. But
oh my God, yeah,
they love you.
It was wonderful. That show was wonderful. I cried when it was done. I'm like, I really loved it, and I loved interviewing the actors. He had a great cast on there. I got to tell you, he had some wonderful people. A lot of great guest shots, etc. That's great. I want to flip back over to film. I didn't know until I researched you were in the Amy Fisher Story. I remember watching that when I was younger. I'm like, oh my God, that film. I was like, it was a very sad story, obviously, but it was a great film. That's a perfect role and participation for you in that. Was that I could see that being one of your favorite films, or am I not reading that right? because I don't know you. I'm getting a sense of that and watching it. I'm like, I wonder if this is something
everything
you really
I've
like.
done is a favorite. Everything I've done is a favorite. But I mean, there's some more favorite than others, I suppose, because they're not all tied for first place, but they're pretty close. But anyway, I remember when I was in Thailand doing a movie, and I came back from Thailand, and my manager said to me, or my agent said to me, hey, you got offered all 3 of the Joey Buttafuoco roles, the ABC, CBS, and NBC series. They're making a movie. And I was out of town for like 4 months, so I didn't know much about Amy Fisher. So I was like, what's this? What is this all about? And they said, who is this Amy Fisher? I read something about it. She killed some guy's wife. And they said, no, he didn't kill the wife, but she. So anyway, one of the networks withdrew the offer because they wanted to get this other guy who they felt was better suited for the role than me. And they also, too, I wasn't so sure I wanted to do their script anyway. And then NBC and ABC, it really got down to the subject matter, how they handled it. You know, NBC made no bones about the fact that Joey was as guilty as hell. And I knew people who knew Joey Buttafuoco. I didn't realize, you know, I knew people who lived in Long Island who knew the guy, but I found that out after the fact. So, given everything you read, you say, you know, this guy's he's a lunatic. He definitely did this, but you can't prove it until he proves that he's guilty. So the NBC, the ABC one, they did that kind of Rashomon kind of thing where Amy tells what happened, and you see Joey involved in the nefarious deed, and then Joey tells what happened, and it makes it look like Amy was the one that's losing her mind. So you get the opportunity to play what everybody thinks is going on, and it was a really good script of that subject. And Drew Barrymore was wonderful to work with, and but you know, in my heart, I knew that Joey Buttafuoco was as guilty as hell. But you know, what am I going to do? You know, so I got an opportunity to play the guilt in the scenes where it's her, you know, and then obviously history later on proved that the guy was guilty as hell.
Oh, I get you. So. Well, and on the flip side of the fence for film, of course, you were in Getting Gotti, and I was talking to some friends of mine, actually. Coincidentally, I'm really surprised. I was so hoping that I would hear your name associated with The Irishman. A lot of my friends are on the set of the new De Niro film, The Irishman, that's filming in New York right now, and I was like, where is your name? I could totally see this. Is that because you're Italian? Because I think oftentimes I see a lot of my Italian friends get cast. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a mob story, so of course it's got to be Italian. Do you find that that's, I mean, I feel bad. I almost feel bad in a way, like you're stereotyped in that regard, so that means you're almost kind of stuck in that genre.
Mean, look, you know what I'm saying? They stereotype Jimmy Cagney. That's okay. You know,
so you're okay
Humphrey
with
Bogart.
that?
They played gangsters for a long, long time. I know. I just didn't get. I was submitted for a character in there, and there was somebody else that they wanted, and when that person said yes, then I was out. The only other roles were very small, minor roles that were of no significance apparently, and they said, look, you know, we'd love to have Tony be on the show, but these roles are so small that it doesn't seem worth it for him to, you know, get everything together, come to New York. They said, but maybe, you know, maybe another next project. And I was like, okay. But, you know, I tried.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I know that you're the recipient. 2011, you received the Prism Award. You're 5 times SAG nominated for an outstanding dramatic series for The Closer. So we're going to talk about The Closer for a bit. But first I want to ask this because, of course, you know, I'm 48 years old. I'm still trying to get my first Oscar, let alone Emmy, let alone anything. And here you are 5 times nominated. So I have to ask what that feeling is like. And obviously it's different, I suppose, as a group versus an individual. But that's got to be a huge honor. That's got to be almost surreal or very overwhelming. What does that feel like? You know, I mean, it's going to be so exciting.
Great. It feels great. I mean, and I meant it. Every time I was interviewed on the red carpet as we were walking in to sit at our table, you know, I would say to the various news outlets, the electronic news media outlets, I would say, you know what? I don't want to sound like, you know, quaint or like I'm blowing smoke, but it really feels great to be nominated. Excuse me. It really feels great to be nominated. And if we don't walk away with the statue, fine. But in the meantime, I'm happy to be here. And I was. And then we wound up getting 5 nominations. which really, it's like, when you think about the competition for the closer at the time, it was pretty strict competition. Now, obviously Major Crimes didn't benefit from that, but then again, like, look, no offense to our show, I love our show, and I think our show is really brilliant. But but it's hard to compete against like The Crown. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get it. I do.
So, and they have so many shows. I think the only way that they can be fair these days, they might have to, instead of nominating 5 shows, they might have to nominate like 10, because there's just so many shows.
I agree, and so many of good caliber.
Really, yeah, and it's just really. I do. And I don't mean just for dramas either, for comedies too. It's so intense out there that and then you have the shows that are like really, like really crowd favorites in terms of numbers and in terms of viewership, like The Sopranos and The Boardwalk and all those TV series. Those had they just and then Mad Men. I mean, so like right there's 3 shows.
Exactly.
And I forget what the other 2 was we kept losing out to, and Major Crimes. And then after that, then you have like all now Netflix. I remember when I went to the first SAG Awards, or is it the second one? Netflix had one table, and it was sort of on the floor, but it was in the back. Now, you go to the SAG Awards, and Netflix basically it's filled with Netflix people. It's filled with. I mean, every table Netflix. HBO, which used to be like the going concern at these things, is now in second place to Netflix in terms of nominations, I think. And Hulu now is coming up on the outside, and Amazon Prime, and so again, like I said, competition is severe. So
and getting higher and higher. I know.
Yeah.
I
watched the show the other day on TV. It was called Atypical. It was brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, just brilliant. Atypical with Jennifer Jason Leigh, which I think she'll get nominated for an Emmy, and she'll probably win. She was wonderful.
Cool. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm always looking for something new and different and out of the ordinary as far as guests and just things to watch, obviously. And what's cool about
also the other one, The Ozarks, with Jason Bateman.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant
I think
show.
I've seen that. You bet. And Screen Actors Guild, folks, just in case you know, obviously, of course, that's actors nominating actors, is it not? So I imagine that's even more of an honor versus obviously some of the other ones, clearly. Now, we want to talk about The Closer. I've only seen The Closer a few times. And the few times that I did see it, I was just overwhelmed with the level of casting, the writing, the storytelling, just everything about that show was phenomenal. So I don't want to have to compare The Closer to your current series, but what I want to ask about is this. You're talking about some dark content on these shows that you cover, et cetera. And so in order to slip into these roles, have you done lots of research or been in particular scenarios? What's kind of the prep work when it comes to this? And secondly, one of the fans was asking, well, how does this guy memorize all these lines? Because let's face it, it's got to be hard when you're 20 years old, let alone, what are you, like 30? I'm not asking your age, and I'm not telling. I know how old you are, but you know what I'm saying. So somebody in the outside world is like, well, how does this guy sit and do this? Because we're not on a TV set, most of us. I've been, but maybe if you could put somebody into your realm and say, okay, I go home at night, I memorize this, I go to the set. Give them an idea of what set life is like when you're working on these shows.
Well, as far as memorizing, that's a muscle, muscle that I've exercised all these years. And so I have my routine for what I do to memorize, and that's how I memorize. I just do the discipline that I need to do to memorize the line, and then I try to do it where I'm adding more emotion other than just the memorization, and that's a technique that I've learned over the years, and that's what I do. Sure. And as far as studying or learning about this character or the characters on that show, Mike Burcham, who was a former lead detective in the city of Los Angeles, he was a technical advisor, and I would pick his brain all the live long day, because my character was modeled more after him than anybody else, and he would I just learned stuff, and it helped because one day we were doing the show, and I sort of improvised the line because there was this awkward moment, and then I just improvised the line. And then when the scene was over, everybody laughed, and they said, "Oh my God, that was hilarious." And they were wondering, would cops say something that funny, or that sarcastic at a death scene? And then Mike came over and he said, "If we don't find a way to break the tension," he said, "we'd all go crazy." He said, "We'd all go, because you imagine the gruesome scenes we come upon." And he says, "We have to have some kind of, sort of an aside that we make sometimes, because if we don't do it, we'll go nuts." Especially when they're involving young children, when they find murder scenes with young children. Because we did this one scene one time on the show, and it was a recreation of some case that he worked on. And it was a set. It was fake blood. It was fake everything.
Right.
But when I walked the murder scene and then got to the place where the daughter was, I had to leave the set for a second because I thought, this is horrifying. It was horrifying. But so there's no training for that. But, I've done ride-alongs with cops, and I'm pretty good with the gun. Even though I don't own a gun, I'm pretty good with a gun. And but I've played enough cops to understand procedural stuff. And then in terms of what the cop's particular philosophy is, if he's a dishonest cop, if he's an honest cop, if he's a hard-nosed guy, if he's an happy-go-lucky kind of guy, that's incidental to the procedural stuff. Or that's what the character's about. But the procedural stuff is incidental to whatever the character's slant is. And so I've done a lot of procedural stuff. But I don't presume to know every procedural technique or trick that cops do. And I just keep learning as you go along. Like how you hold the gun at certain times. You have to make sure you don't get into that. You don't develop bad habits about how you point the gun and, and all that stuff. So, and when do you reach for your gun? When do you overreact, and how do you not overreact? All kinds of stuff like that.
Wow. It's pretty impressive, I have to say, because I don't even know how to hold a gun. My best friend insists I should get one, and I'm like, I'm a little nervous about that, which is another thing. I watch this on TV and all this stuff, and it's just so surreal and realistic, and it's like, a TV thing looks like fun, but I prefer the film side of things, I guess I would rather be on a film set than a TV set. It just seems very, very different. Plus, you're involving yourself with a large cast. Like, for instance, Major Crimes is not a small scenario here. You've got a number of noteworthy actors on your set. I have my personal favorites. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you married my girl crush. I mean, I don't mean crush in the sense of attracted to her. She's beautiful. I mean, she's breathtaking, folks. Have you ever looked at Mary? I mean, looked at her Instagram or looked at her. She's breathtaking. She's hiding behind Mary. These glasses. I mean, she's on TV with these glasses, and all I'm thinking is, really, girl? I'm like, she's so beautiful. And I keep looking at her as a detective, and I'm like, So
and
what is that
she's such a genuinely nice person. I believe that. I'd like to say that I consider Mary a friend. Instead of just a workmate, I consider her a friend, and she's told me the same thing. So which honors me because she's such a talented actress. So.
Well, we have to talk about the Shandy factor too. Because I saw this hashtag before I was going to interview, and I kept seeing Shandy all over the place, and I'm thinking, what the hell is a Shandy? Well, first of all, we live in this world nowadays. Am I the only person, because you're a little bit older than me, not much, but there's hashtag central. Like whenever we post anything, there's to be 75 hashtags. So all I keep seeing about you is Major Crimes, Shandy, Tony Denison. There's all these Shandy things, and I'm like, you have quite the large following. You have tons of followers, tons of Facebook groups dedicated to Shandy, to Major Crimes. So I have to ask this question. I'm saddened by the news that you're not coming back. Is that correct, or do we have news on this? As far as I understand, this is your last season.
As of this moment, this is it.
I'm surprised.
We finished the season. We finished. Yeah, I mean, we're all surprised too on our show. We're like, are you kidding?
Shocked.
But for whatever reasons, the decisions were reached and the decisions were made. The people who involved in that, nobody asked me what I thought because I would have said, hey, keep it on. But,
well, of course, I understand. Sure.
And that's the way it happens. And but it's like onward and upward to something else. So
Well, and that poses the question, of course. Tonight is your 100th episode, as I understand it, so I'm kind of excited. I know the premise around it to some degree, and of course I have to DVR it because I won't be home. I'll be at Star Wars tonight. So I'm sorry I can't watch you. I'm kind of dissing you for Luke Skywalker, but I'm okay with that because it's the big. Have you seen the big Star Wars movie yet? Are you a Star Wars fan?
Yes, I went to the Star Wars movie. Yes, it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so without giving me a spoiler, like on a 1 to 10 scale, are we sitting at a 10 with this movie, you think?
Well, if I were a Star Wars freak, I would say 10. I'm not a Star Wars freak, but I'm a big enthusiast of the series, and I would say the very least an 8.
Ooh, okay, so I'm excited about this. I don't know what to think. I keep getting mixed reviews, so I'm like, my kids want to go, so I'm like, we'll go. I'm really excited about it, but I'm like, okay. So tonight's this 100th episode, and of course, obviously, as you're coming to a close, how difficult is that? I mean, I guess, we as coworkers, when a business closes, it's a little different than when a series wraps, obviously. So do you find yourself challenged or a little sentimental? Is it tough to be, I guess I should ask, are you done shooting or you're still shooting yet? Because I wasn't sure.
Oh, it's very sad. We're done shooting. And it was, you were involved with this character, been involved with this character for 13 years. And I could have done it. I could have done it for at least another 5 or more years if need be. So we were all sort of shocked that a show with the high ratings that we have, is coming to a close. And so, okay, so be it. Thankful for the 13 years that we were on the air. And now it's onward and upward to another show.
Oh, you betcha. I have to ask you because you're part of the cast. If I were to ask you, I assume do you watch your own show? So, like, you're going to watch Major Crimes Tonight?
I mean, I watch it.
Okay.
I don't watch it on the same night it airs, unless somebody asks me to watch it, and so that we can talk notes about it.
Sure.
But I basically I do watch it maybe 2 nights later, or sometimes even a week later. But I really, I like our show. It's the kind of show that I would watch if I wasn't on it. I would watch it.
You betcha. I was just going to say, so if you were an observer watching this, and I know it might sound kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's meant to prove a point. So who's your favorite character on the show? I mean, I'm going to guess.
Besides my character?
Yes, besides Andy, of course. And I'm guessing you're going to say Mary, but I mean, if you just look at it realistically, and just for the story and the casting, et cetera, because I have my personal favorite. I mean, of course, I like you and I like Mary, but I'm here to tell you I have my own favorites on the show. So I'm just curious if you have a favorite.
Well, I mean, I would say, obviously I've worked with GW longer than I've worked with Mary. So I really, really enjoy the scenes that we did together, GW and I, over the years. But I really, without, getting into a competition with one against the other, but I really, 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 really loved working with Mary. She was great. She is great.
I believe it. Oh, I believe that. I do, without a doubt. And Mary, if you're listening, yes, feel free to come on my show, every day of the week. I'm totally she's way up there on the list because I was watching her before she even got to this show. So I was like, it's kind of sentimental for me to kind of see, some of the actors that I like moving on, et cetera, obviously. I have a message for you from people, and I should thank you, by the way, because people on Instagram who actually have now started following me that are fans of yours, actually. So thank you for some of the followers that you have that I now have. But there is a lovely lady, I'm sure you know who she is, Stephanie, on Instagram, all the way from Germany.
Stephanie, Germany, yes.
Yes, you bet. She was like, you need to say thank you to him. You need to say Merry Christmas to him. Obviously, we both want to know the answer to this because you have upcoming projects. I see 2 of them, Frank and Ava, and, of course, Agent Emerson was the one that Stephanie was asking about. So can you give us a heads up on your future projects? Because I think they're in post-production, or what's the status on those?
Frank and Ava, I think, just got released, and I don't know if it, tore the world on fire. But I did that for favor to a doctor friend of mine, and I had a good time doing the movie. I played this real character, and who goes up against Harry Cohn in this one particular situation, deciding about whether or not Sinatra should play in the movie From Here to Eternity. And and there was a good scene because that's apparently through through hearsay, maybe a rumor or fact that this is what happened. And so it was good to play that. And then I also Agent Emerson is a virtual reality show, and I'm not what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not the I can't describe it. It's so difficult to describe. It's just, 3D. I mean, virtual reality. I've not ever done anything like that before. So it was, very, very hard to give you a reference point, except that it was very interesting and very enjoyable at the same time.
Oh, I believe that. How exciting is that? Okay, so before I forget to ask, obviously the holidays are almost upon us, so we want everybody to know that you're not just an actor, you're a person. So any big exciting plans for the New Year or Christmas, or what's the next week holding for you?
I'm just going to take it easy for the next week. Going to get together with some friends, little dinner. No, I don't. I'm not the best traveler when it comes to holidays. Okay. I'm just not, because I'm always. The roads are filled with people who are what I call amateur hours, who think that they can drink and drive.
Oh my God!
So it's not my cup of tea. But I mean, if I had a specific, like I say, a really good friend was having a big party, and I mean, sure, I'd make allowances to go see them.
You betcha. I almost forgot my other question. I see that you have been featured on, in case you guys don't know this, he's been featured on USA Today, ET, Closer Weekly, as well as Life. Those are some big names. That's pretty exciting. And I guess my question is, you seem so down to earth, and you get featured in all these places. You've been in all these productions. It's almost like you're a celebrity, but not a celebrity. Has anyone ever told you that? That's the impression I get. He seems like a regular guy that turned into a celebrity.
I get that a lot. Yeah, I get that a lot.
Okay.
Whatever I'm doing to receive that sort of designation, I'm very happy about.
Oh, I bet. That's awesome. I like that. Well, good. Now we're on to the part where I'm going to, before I wrap up the show, I'm going to give you some surprises, because everybody that comes on my show gets a surprise, celebrity or not.
Okay.
Everybody that's on my show is a celebrity. Hopefully you'll like these. If you don't, I'm going to probably cry. Just kidding. I tailor-make these surprises because I always try to find a way to get to network with somebody after the fact. In fact, most of my show guests are friends of mine. So it turns out real well. So first of all, I have to ask you about Trattoria. I am a film festival founder. I am a New York City Film Festival founder, and my second year is this year. And I was wondering if you would mind connecting me so that I could show your film at my film festival this year as a special screening.
Oh, in Trattoria?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need Jason's number, because I wouldn't know anybody else.
I was just going to say,
I don't know who the publicity
person
is.
I mean, unless of course there's another. I was just going to say, unless there's another, because you've done other indie film, right? I mean, I don't mind showing a different film of yours. I just thought it seems like your passion project, so I'm like, well, maybe we should show that one. You know what I mean?
Well, I did this one movie, but that's from a long time ago. It's called Little Vegas, but I don't know how you would get a hold of me. Perry Lang is the director of it. But again, it was when I was much younger. This was like back in 1989. Trattoria would make Trattoria good is because it was only like 5 years ago that I did it. So
got it. So that's more recent.
Let me give you his number here. Hold on.
You sure he doesn't mind on air? I don't want like 63,000 people calling this guy.
You know what? You have my cell phone number, right?
As a matter of fact, I do, and I sent you a Facebook request, so you could just Facebook it to me, too. I just don't want it to go over the airwaves because there's, at 1,000 people here, so I respect.
Yeah, I'll call
so number one.
And I'll tell them.
Yeah, right, and we'll talk about that. So that's number one. Obviously, it goes without saying if you are, because we're indie. So I'm sure you're familiar with indie translates to broke 90% of the time. But if you're in New York City in August, my festival is going on. I would love it if you would consider being on either the actor panel or you have not directed, is that right? Because I thought someone told me you directed. Am I mistaken?
No desire to direct.
Okay.
I have desire to produce, but no desire to direct.
Okay, got it. Well, we have a lovely actor panel, and I'm hoping that James will be able to come too. That's not a guaranteed, but you're like cream of the crop, and so I'm like, if I begged him and if he's in New York in August, like maybe mid-August when the festival's going on, you might consider doing my actor panel, maybe? You don't have to say yes right now. Think about it. Yeah, it's August 16th to the 19th, in New York City. So it's a 4-day festival. I'm super excited. Big things going on this year. So you can think about it. I mean, it's like 6 months away or so you can, but I would love it if you would at least consider coming. The other thing I wanted to throw out to you is, well, and I can't afford it, but, if you ever find that you want to, be on a movie set, I'm filming my first movie next month, and I'll be in LA for 2 days. So if you're interested in potentially maybe popping your head in it, we could talk about it off the air, of course. But I'm doing my very first film. I'm open to advice. Do you have any advice for a first-time filmmaker? Usually I'm on the other side, like judging and screening and reviewing. But now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the film thing. I'm petrified.
Well,
I'm excited but petrified.
When I say for actors about being positive, passionate, and patient, as far as directors are concerned, it's about allowing the creativity to flow out of you, to keep communication open, make people know it's fun and safe to talk with you and talk to the other people, and recognize that it's all a collaborative effort. And sometimes you can't think of everything, and somebody turns around and says, I have an idea. And if it's a really good idea, don't let your ego get in the way of saying no to it because it wasn't your idea.
I gotcha. I see what you mean. So I'm excited about that. We'll see how that goes. But I'll send you information on that. And the last thing is relative to major crimes. I don't know if this would help or not, but a lot of my friends are your friends, and a lot of my friends are in film. And so I have written screenplays before, and so somebody said, maybe you suggest to you, Tony Denison, what if somebody wrote like a spin-off, let's say a movie, a one-time movie of major crimes and made it into a film? Would you guys consider doing that?
Of course. Of course I would.
Really?
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Okay, just because I have a friend of mine and myself collaborating about that idea, because I'm like, I like the show, and he's like, I love the show, and he's like, what can we do to resurrect it? You were the go-to guy to ask, so yeah, maybe we'll collaborate on that. I think that'll be awesome. That's great. Okay, cool. Those are all your surprises. Hopefully you're surprised enough. Hopefully your listening audience is surprised enough. I'm going to read off a ton of ways to find Tony Denison. This is more for the listening audience because you know how to find you. And just so you know, this episode will be archived about 2 hours after the fact, and I'll send you a link for both of these so that you have it. Also, before I announce all this or read all these off, Nadine Jolson of JolsonCreative.com. If it wasn't for Nadine, we would not have this interview. So Nadine, thank you for your patience. Thank you for the collaboration and getting us together.
Nadine is great.
She's a doll. Oh my God, she's so sweet.
Yes,
she's so cooperative, so patient. I think she's a doll. My goodness. Okay. So here goes. I'm going to read off all these things. It's Tony. His last name is Denison, which is Denison. Following ways to find him: IMDb, Wikipedia, his Facebook page. He has a personal page, and then he has a professional page. He's on Twitter, 2 different places, at Real Tony Denison, which is also his Instagram handle. Major Crimes TNT is also the Twitter handle for the show, Major Crimes. iTunes, Tumblr, YouTube. Obviously, for the show, www.tntdrama.com. That's where you're going to find Major Crimes. Website, TonyDenison.net, which is a fan site, by the way, not the real thing, meaning not the person I'm talking to, but there's a whole fan site dedicated to him. Amazon, obviously, of course, to find some of your other works that you've done. Tumblr, and have I forgotten anything? Any other place?
No, that's it.
I think that's everything. Whew. Goodness gracious. And he's in L.A., obviously. He lives there, but clearly you have to search and dig around for him as far as that goes. Okay, very last thing I do on the show before I let you go is to tell folks what I think of you. This is not scripted, by the way, so this is just general observations based on searching, researching, and all that good stuff, and then you can go on to your wonderful day. When I first was told that I was interviewing this wonderful man, the first thing that I thought of was I was going to look at about 100 pictures of him, because sometimes I do that as a journalist. And just as I said, I was right. He's a regular guy who's turned into celebrity. And why is that really cool? I knew I wanted to interview him the first time I read 3 or 4 articles which prefaced that he was just a regular blue-collar guy with great values and great admiration for art and cinema. That excited me. Today when I talked about passion and purpose, I couldn't be any more excited than I was just hearing that I was going to interview a guy off television, but moreover, that he has passion and purpose for the roles that he takes. He is extremely intensely serious on screen. He scares me to death. He scares me now, not because he's a celebrity on television, but just because he seems like a phenomenal person that I wish I could afford to hire. And I'm not going to lie. If I could, I'd have you do all 4 of my films, but I can't afford you, sadly. I think he is wonderful, charismatic, intelligent, handsome, funny. He's got great bodies of work. I'm so excited about showcasing your film at my festival, hopefully. I hope I get an opportunity to get to know you better. I would love to be able to stand in a room with you at some point in time. I hope you do the festival. I hope you come back anytime if you have other projects to promote. I'd love to have you. And I hope you've been happy with the show. I had a wonderful time.
Yes. I had a great time, too.
Oh.
It was very thorough.
Really?
Really, it was great. Very good interview.
Yay! Wonderful. So, that's wonderful. So, yeah, so like I said, give me 2 hours. I'll send you a link over there. I sent you a note on Facebook, so you should see it for me. And I sent you a note, and I'll send you the information on my festival. You can send me the info about that. We can get coordinated and stuff. And like I said, don't be a stranger. And, of course, obviously, tonight, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Major Crimes 100th episode. I'll be DVRing it, of course. And I wish you nothing but success. And I do hope we get to collaborate. You're wonderful.
Thank you. Right back at you.
Oh, thank you so much, dear. All right, well, stay in touch. You have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
All right, dear. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Told me he wasn't phenomenal, right? Tony Denison is his name. Obviously, the name of the show is called Major Crimes. And, again, it's on TNT television, which is on Tuesday nights. Clearly, it's the 100th episode tonight. It's 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. One more time, let's read off all the ways to find him. It's Tony, last name Denison. Denisom. He has an IMDb profile, Wikipedia. His Twitter and Instagram handle are both at The Real Tony Denison, as well as the Twitter handle for Major Crimes, which is Major Crimes TNT. He has a personal Facebook page along with a professional page. He is on Tumblr, iTunes, YouTube, Amazon, as well as the website for the show itself, which is www.tntdrama.com. And, of course, for the fan site for the folks that are watching the show, it's TonyDenison.net. All things Tony Denison, and yes, he was that wonderful. Huge shout-out again to Nadine Jolson for orchestrating it. And if you want to find her, JolsonCreative.com is her website for publicity and PR purposes. Again, do watch the show tonight. Do come to the festival. Hopefully Tony and I can get things worked out. He was just phenomenal. A reminder to everybody, tomorrow, Todd with SimFit Jim is coming on the show at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. And, of course, Friday, Michael of Talk of the Dead, my independent film from Art is Alive, will be 1 o'clock Central Standard Time on Friday. I am off to go shopping and go get my beautiful children. I thank you guys so much for your concern. I've been seeing the notes and messages, and I appreciate it. I'm just not in a great place in the head, so forgive me as far as that goes. I want to remind everybody one more time, Art is Alive, filmfestival.yolasite.com. Submissions for my festival are now open. Anybody that wants to submit, go to my website all week long up until Christmas. The rate has been dropped. Submission fee is normally $25. Now dumped down to $15 through Christmas as a gift to my filmmakers. If anyone is listening into the show today and wants an opportunity to try to get cast in my new film, here's what you need to do. Either you need to go ahead and either, number one, go to Sergeant Seizure and the Evil Dr. Cuckoo. That's my son's comic book. Purchase either a comic book or the calendar based on my film festival, which is Art is Alive, The Magic of Indie Movies. Go purchase a calendar there, or purchase both if you like. Do one or the other between now and Christmas, and one of you, one lucky person that's listening in, will get a chance to be part of my film. Why? Because not everybody in my film is an actual bona fide actor. So, again, one more time, Art is Alive, The Magic of Indie Movies, or Sergeant Seizure and the Evil Dr. Cuckoo. Thank you so much to everybody listening in, including you, beautiful Stephanie in Germany, along with all the other Shandy fans in the world and all the other Tony fans in the world. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers. Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require porting of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.